uTorrent is the most widely used BitTorrent client in the market. It supports both Windows and Linux operating systems. But for Linux only, it comes as uTorrent server. This video tutorial will show you how to install uTorrent on an Ubuntu 20 LTS machine. Development of uTorrent server seems to have been abandoned by its developers a long time ago. The last version of uTorrent for Linux was released 8 years ago. And it's indicated that it supports up to Ubuntu 13 LTS. But we've previously installed uTorrent on Ubuntu 16 LTS without any issues. You can find the link to that tutorial in the video description. Be it an Ubuntu 20 LTS server or Ubuntu 20 LTS desktop, the installation procedure is the same. We will be using Ubuntu command line terminal for this tutorial. You can launch terminal by hitting Ctrl+X keys on your Ubuntu 20 LTS desktop. If you're using an Ubuntu 20 LTS server to install uTorrent, you need to log into your server as root using PuTTY. You can find the link to that tutorial in the description as well. Once you're connected to the command line interface of your machine, execute following commands to update apt cache. Next, remove any obsolete packages from the machine. And then, do a system reboot. Connect to the command line interface once your machine comes back online. Now we're ready to install the dependencies required by uTorrent. Following commands will take care of them. Now, we will create new Ubuntu user named VPS fix with no root privileges to run uTorrent on our machine. We'll come back to using this user account with uTorrent a bit later on this tutorial. Like I said before, the latest version of uTorrent for Ubuntu was released for Ubuntu 13. But with all the dependencies in place, we will be able to install uTorrent on Ubuntu 20 LTS as well. We'll use the same installation package that was provided for Ubuntu 13. Let's download it. Extract the downloaded file to OPT directory. Create a link from uTorrent to user bin directory. That mostly completes the installation. But we'll register uTorrent as a service in next step before launching it. Registering uTorrent server as a service on the Ubuntu 20 LTS machine gives us an easy way of managing it. Plus, we can enable auto start so that the uTorrent server starts with a system reboot. Let's create a systemd service for uTorrent with following command. Now, paste the following lot. Open the link in video description to easily copy and paste the content. Close the file by hitting Ctrl+X keys. And then reload systemd. Let's fix the file permissions before we finally start uTorrent server. We've successfully installed uTorrent on Ubuntu 20 LTS and registered it as a service on the previous steps. Let's enable auto start for uTorrent with following command. We can start uTorrent with following command. We can check if the uTorrent server is already running with following command. uTorrent server doesn't come with a graphical user interface even on the desktop versions of Ubuntu. You have to access it using your browser. If you have installed uTorrent on your local Ubuntu machine, you can use following address to access uTorrent web user interface. If you've installed uTorrent server on an Ubuntu VPS, you can use following URL. Remember to replace the IP address with your server's actual IP address. A pop-up will open asking for a username and a password. The default username for uTorrent is admin and leave the password field blank. Hit enter and you'll be logged into your uTorrent web user interface. Although uTorrent is up and running on Ubuntu 20 LTS, we need to configure a few things before we can use it. We need to configure the default download directory in uTorrent web user interface since we're using a non-root user named VPS fix to run it. Let's create a directory to hold the downloaded files. Grant directory ownership to VPS fix user. Now, log into uTorrent web user interface and click the gear icon to navigate to settings menu. Then, select Web UI on the left menu. You can change both the username and password, which is more secure than using admin as the username. Next, go to the Directories menu from left sidebar and set default directory for downloads to the directory we just created. That's it for the setup. Now you can log in and download torrents to your Ubuntu 20.04 machine. Downloaded files will be saved on the directory you created earlier in this step.
I'll see you in next video.